Hey Rebel Rouser, I'm Alan Voivod, and this is Star Wars 7x7, your daily dose of Star Wars joy. And thank you so much for joining me for it. I'm coming at you from Southern California. I'm in a hotel room here. I'm out here for work, and yeah, so our acoustics will be a little bit different, but hey, that's okay. But we're here to talk about Twilight of the Apprentice Part 2. Just the other day, we were talking about Part 1, and even though Part 1 is on the list of essential Ahsoka Tano episodes over on the Disney Plus app, the only reason why it really is because you kind of need to see Part 1 for the full story of Part 2 to have any effect. And also, you need Shroud of Darkness as well, which we talked about earlier on the podcast also. That's the episode where Kanan and Ezra and Ahsoka went to the Jedi Temple on Lothal and had individual visions. In particular, the one I want to recall is Ahsoka's vision from there, where she had a vision of Anakin saying, you left me, you abandoned me, why did you leave, look what I've become. And that's where she has the realization that Anakin is now Darth Vader. And that later comes into play when the Sith Temple is disintegrating after Kanan and Ezra take the holocron back and try to run away with it. And so then all these walls start coming down, and Ahsoka tells Anakin / Vader that she's not going to leave him, not this time. So she's responding to the vision that she had in the temple on Lothal. However, I don't know how much of that is really an accurate reflection of reality for what she did, or if it's just her own guilt talking, if she is harboring this misconception that her leaving the Jedi Order is something that was a significant blow to Anakin to send him toward the dark side of the Force. And, in truth, it probably was, but it wasn't the act of Ahsoka leaving so much as the betrayal by the Jedi of her, how they were so ready to throw her to the wolves. And I'm sure that soured Anakin on the Jedi Order. It was definitely one brick in the wall of that. But even that moment of Ahsoka saying, I won't abandon you, I won't leave you, not this time, it took some fighting to get to that point, with Ahsoka showing up and saying, I thought I knew who you were, but nobody could be as vile as this. There's no way my old master could be as vile as this. And there's, a pitched battle. And at one point when Kanan and Ezra are trying to escape with the holocron, and Vader has it in a force grip and they're pulling together, Ahsoka comes running at him and leaps and slashes him, and that's when he gets his helmet cut. And it's reminiscent, of course, of the scene that happens in the Obi-Wan Kenobi series when Obi-Wan cuts Vader's helmet open and you see one red eye. And it's in his recovery that instead of hearing James Earl Jones, you hear Matt Lanter's voice coming out, of course, the voice of Anakin in the Clone Wars. And he says, Ahsoka, and that's what she keys in on. That's not the voice of Darth Vader. That's the voice of the master that I knew and loved. This is also the episode where we get the line from Ahsoka, I'm no Jedi. And it comes when she says that I guess my master is truly dead, so I'll have to avenge him. And Vader's response is, well, revenge isn't the Jedi way. And that's where she's like, I am no Jedi. And you'd think Vader would know that by now. But interestingly, also, Vader says at the beginning of their confrontation, we need not be adversaries, and says that the Emperor will show her mercy if she gives up the location of the other Jedi. So the fact that he even says we don't have to be adversaries in the first place suggests that he knows he would be in for the fight of his life with Ahsoka. And indeed, he had his hands full, and we don't even get to see how the battle actually ends. All we see is a montage of shots where Vader is stumbling out of the ruins of the temple, and there's a convoy watching him, and then the convoy flies off into the rubble, and then the scene cuts to Ahsoka, what looks like she's going down a staircase into the darkness inside the Sith temple. But we have no idea how the battle ended between the two of them, or how they were separated from each other. If it didn't end, it was just interrupted. Though we do get an answer to that question in the fourth and final season of Rebels, and we'll actually get to talk about about that too. And that whole idea of her walking down a staircase into the darkness, it actually mirrors, if you go back to the Star Wars Celebration in 2016 and the Untold Tales panel they released at the same time a bunch of Star Wars Topps cards trading art, and one of them showed a very stylized image of Ahsoka going down a staircase, which looks very similar to what the situation was in the actual episode. And then, of course, the cards actually sort of suggested what her journey might have been from that point. Well, the thing in the audio description for the episode, which I thought was fascinating, doesn't actually say that she's going down a staircase. Instead, the way it's described is, it says a lone figure falls to their knees in darkness. And that lone figure has to be Ahsoka. I mean, there's nobody else left in the temple at that point. All the Inquisitors are dead, and Maul has already escaped. So it has to be Ahsoka. And one other note too, when Vader first sees Ahsoka there, he says, "It was foretold that you would be here, but we don't know by whom or when or what kind of prophecy this was that he's referring to and what the end result of it might be." So that's also something that might bear a little bit of investigation too. So that's what I've got for you about Twilight of the Apprentice Part 2, the big showdown between Ahsoka and Vader, and that is going to do it for this episode of the podcast. It just remains for me to say thank you so much for joining me for it, as always, and may the Force be with you, wherever in the world you may be.
7x7 is not endorsed or sponsored yet by Lucasfilm Limited, Disney, or 20th Century Fox, and is intended for entertainment and information purposes only. Star Wars, the Star Wars logo, all names and pictures of Star Wars characters, vehicles, and any other Star Wars related items are registered trademarks and/or copyrights of Lucasfilm Limited, or their respective trademark and copyright holders. May the Force be with them. All original content is copyright by Star Wars 7x7. We hope you love it.